All right, so welcome to Injury Influence Unpacked. I am Ryan from Injury Influence Academy, and this is the podcast for physios and physical therapists where we share practical tips and real-world stories to help you thrive. So let's unpack it together. Good morning, everyone. I have Jordan, Claudia, and Marina, current Bond students with us that are going to share some insights. Morning, guys.
Morning.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
So let's start with the basics, and I don't mind who goes first. Jump in, first in, best dressed. But what's your experience been like as a physio student so far?
Yeah, it's been really good. It's a lot different than what I thought it was going to be. But I think the system that they've got set up at Bond, especially, has been really supportive for how intense they've kind of got that program set up. But at the same time, they've got enough independence built in that you can almost do as much or as little as you want to do, and then pretty much fate is left into your hands in terms of what you pick up and what you sort of leave behind. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far. Meeting a lot of people from around the world as well has been really good. Getting different perspectives, why people want to be physios, why they might want to move on to something else afterwards. It's all been really interesting for me so far.
Yeah, I think it's also. Oh, sorry, Claudia.
You go.
As I'd say, just like piggybacking on Jordy's thought here, just like everybody with different backgrounds as well. They've collected like such a good, like our cohort in general, like has had such good background experience that they're bringing into the program as well. So if you're not picking it up from your instructors, you're picking up other cool tips or different experiences from your classmates as well, which is like a very, very good selection that Bond has put in the cohort as well.
Yeah, I'd have to say pretty good considering how many hours we are there a week. And like I've done 2 degrees before and really struggled mentally and with burnout. So I haven't really found that yet, which is crazy considering that we are there 40 hours a week. So I do agree with Jordy that it's a good balance and there's like lots of variety. And yes, I'm sure you can push yourself into burnout, but they do like there's ways to deal with that as well.
Absolutely. And like you guys say, like for those listening to the podcast that don't know any of us, welcome. But I'm a future bonding myself, and the program has always been really, really jam-packed, right? Like that's one thing that hasn't changed. But I think, like from you guys and your perspective, what do you think the biggest challenge is so far? Like you mentioned the workload and how many contact hours you're there and stuff like that. But like, if you had to pick one thing, what's the biggest challenge?
I honestly think, it's going like you just get used to a subject, like, and then it's like change, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, and then I spend 2 weeks being like, I'm just want to be back at that subject, and then I get another week where I'm like, oh okay, I'm getting it now, and then it's like exams and then you're done. So it's just like the quick adjustments is hard for me personally, but especially because I start to like the subject and I start to get a swing of it, and then it's like, okay, next one.
Yeah, I think much the same for me. Like I definitely didn't come from sort of the academic background like Claudia might have come from with a few degrees before this. I came from that sort of professional sport kind of environment. So my undergrad, I learned next to zero study habits or how to study or even how to retain information quite quickly.
You're a sponge though, come on.
And then,
Photographic memory also helps out too.
You're more equipped to the other side of student life.
And studying it's like HD.
But yeah, I think it's exactly that. It's kind of the thing I've found hardest to grasp, but also the thing I've enjoyed most is that our subjects, for those who don't know how Bond is set up, we sort of run in maybe 4 or 5 week blocks to cover a whole semester's worth of content. We assess it and then we move on. So the subjects that I might not have liked, like the one we've just sat as much.
Okay, that went on forever, but yeah.
In the back of my head, I was like, I've only got to get through
PTSD. It's too early for us.
I've only got to get through 20 learning days and then just get what I need to do, take on what I need to take on, and then I can park it. And then if I have to draw on it later in life for clinical skills or whatever, I can come back to that. But at the time, I was like, okay, just get through this just before Christmas as well.
Brutal. 16 weeks semester.
Yeah, so that was definitely my sort of my hardest bit so far.
Yeah.
I think for me, it would probably be dealing with like obviously being the international student in the group right now, definitely the homesickness that like kind of just while you're trying to like obviously because what Claudia and Jordy said was correct, like just like the adaptation of just like how am I going to study for this exam, how am I gonna, okay, well I just figured out how to study for this like this class, and now the class is done, you're like, oh wait, what, I kind of liked it, where's it going? And then you have to like restart again and figure out another way that you could try and study for the next class that you start or the next subject. But then for me, like having that like homesickness thing just in the back of my head sometimes where it's like if you're studying by yourself and you have that like thought clicking, like, oh, you know, friends are back home right now, like obviously sleeping, but when they wake up they're probably going to go do something else that's pretty cool and exciting that I would love to do. So that's also like another thing that like for me, like without the adaptation and like the occasional time management stress, I think that's just something that would like peg me sometimes when I'm like just studying.
Yeah, and it's tricky, right? Like you say, it's not easy jumping from one thing to another as such. Like you said, Jordy, like every 4 to 5 weeks is a big ask for anyone, let alone like a physio student starting your career or trying to start your career. So hats off to you guys. But it's fast forward a little bit to like when you guys start your careers and wherever you end up working, we do a version of that every day. And while it might not be 5 weeks at a time, it's every patient at a time. So you might get like an NDIS patient on disability. You might get, we've had quite a few since COVID, like post-COVID lung issue, that kind of stuff. So more cardio rest, but then you go straight into a rugby player that's done their ACL. So you constantly, I suppose, have to change your brain or your way of thinking. So while it's not exactly the same, it still happens after you graduate. I don't know if that's comfort to you guys or scares the crap out of you, but
I think that's okay. It's just like the 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I hate this. I'm like, oh, I like it now, and then it's done. I'm like, oh, I hate this.
Yeah.
But that's me. I need to be less judgy.
Yeah, I don't mind the idea of jumping from patient to patient, obviously, because that's what the real world is. But I think the thing that I found hard was, for example, the subject we just did, neuro physio. I came into that subject with zero background knowledge, zero understanding of anything. Like they were saying words in that first week that I hadn't even heard of before. And then you're sort of forward thinking yourself, like, okay, in 5 weeks time, I've got to know how to assess a vestibular patient, treat them, and then be able to sort of pull on your own clinical diagnosis as to why you did what you did. And at the time when it was getting taught, I was like, geez, I don't even know what BPP, VQPRS or whatever it is. I don't know any of these. I don't know any of these acronyms. Like, how am I meant to start treating people with these things?
I'm still thinking about student retention. Like, sorry. But yeah, it is hard.
Yeah, and I suppose how do you? Because you mentioned before, Claudia, like the word burnout and stuff like that, and that's really common, or a really common phrase in physio at least, and obviously physio student life. How do you guys, I suppose, manage that stress and manage, like you said, Jordy, not knowing like the basic English of neurophysio to like finishing and like doing an exam and moving on? How do you guys manage that stuff? Like it's pretty tough, right?
Yeah, I think from my own background, I was quite lucky. I've always played quite high level sport, especially in high school, having to balance sort of school and that sort of side of it.
Yeah.
It's not much of a comparison now that we're an adult and we're studying a postgrad, but I think I kind of always had some sort of a basis of a time management skill, and using sport as my outlet from study has been really good. Like knowing that in our long days at the moment, like, okay, I'm only at uni from 8 till 4:30 or whatever.
Only.
And then I get my 2 hours off every afternoon to go and train. And that's the time of the day where I don't have to worry about uni. It's almost like a little bit of a reset for me each day, which has been really good. But I know a lot of other people, especially growing up on the coast, people go for a surf in the morning and that's kind of their reset. And then in the afternoon, be able to run up and down hedges. And I think, just finding little things to fill your day that's not uni.
And just like not taking it like it's not that deep, you know, like we don't need to study 4 hours after class, like just a little bit here and there, and like life still goes on. And like I've had a really bad burnout before, and now I know I can see the triggers coming, but I just feel like you have to either pick like your morning or your afternoon that you want off. So like in the morning I like go to the gym, I walk, whatever, and then in the afternoon I might do like an hour and a bit of study, and then the weekends like I'm always seeing friends. Like I don't think last weekend before our exams, I was like,
Hermit.
But other than that, I'm always seeing a friend or like going for a swim. Like, I think I have too much balance.
Yeah, I think I lean too much on the social side.
Yeah.
It's an important part of student life, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I did feel myself about to burn out this subject, and then I was like, you know what, I'm going to drop work this week. I'm going to drop my dinner plans, and then I kind of got it while I was on top. But if you don't know the signs, I feel like it's harder to just get on top of it.
And how about you, Marina? Like, how have you dealt with that? Like the challenges or like the ever looming potential burnout, especially being from overseas?
So with the burnout, I've had burnout in the past, obviously. Especially myself, I love burnout state. Not yet, but I'm very thankful that. Oh, I cut out. Can you guys hear me still?
Oh, we might have lost you.
Yeah.
We didn't hear that. Go again.
I was gonna say, okay, cool. Sorry, the tolls are not a good spot right now. They're like terrible. We're in a parking lot technically, but anyway, burnout. Yeah, like I sometimes do tend to push.
Oh,
No, she's gone again.
we might have lost you. We'll cross back to Ron Burgundy in the studio. We'll come back to you, Marina. If you can hear us, we'll come back to you. But I suppose, guys, like to wrap up this little section, I suppose, what's your advice for someone starting or thinking of starting physio? Not necessarily at Bond. Like more than happy for you to answer in that way. But like, if I was a young strapping dude that wanted to start physio, what would your advice be? The first semester, first day.
I think
Don't go too hard too soon, because if you go hard too soon, I just don't think there's any coming back.
Yeah.
Personally, well, okay, that's a really big call, but I think like just balance. You know, you don't need to get 95%. Like, you just need to know the content so you can be a good physio. And like, okay, we have our off days, but I just genuinely think like social, exercise, like just like maybe a bit of work, like if you have the time. I don't know, I need work as a bit of like outlet as well, but yeah.
I think probably my piece of advice comes in two parts, and I think the first one was really applicable for me when we were going through the process of applying and interviewing and trying to get into the subject. There was a big part of me that I was looking too far forward and thinking, is this something that, one, I really want to do, and two, can I handle? And as soon as I kind of made that decision to just be like, nah, this is actually something I want to do, like regardless of whether or not I think I'm capable, or like this next 2 years of our lives are going to be pretty hectic, just jump in and do it. Just jump in with both feet. And then secondly, which kind of links into that one, is be comfortable with not knowing. Like, I think those sort of first week or two of each subject, like I said before, like I didn't really know. Well,
That's like 4.
I knew nothing of neuro, but I always had to sort of take a step back and be like, I'm 4 days into a brand new sector of physio. One, didn't even know existed. And two, that I've never had any exposure to. So just being comfortable with not knowing at that time, and just kind of backing on yourself and your educators and your peers to sort of get you to that point where you start feeling comfortable with what's going on.
Well, like every single time the first 3 weeks, I'm like, huh? But then like it literally all comes together by the end. Like it always does. You just got to trust the process. That's so lame, but fully you do.
It comes very, very quickly. Like there are days where, like Claudia said, you have your off days, but then you wake up one day and someone will ask you a question off the cuff, and without even really thinking about it, you have an answer. Whether or not it might be the correct answer at the time, like you have at least a starting point to start building on. And I think at this level of sort of our professional development, that's kind of all we need to be at. Like we're not expected to know everything, but I think especially people who are in those higher positions who are trying to get the best out of you, they just want to see that you're at least grasping the concepts, and you have that room to develop into bigger and better things.
Absolutely. And you hit it on the head there. Like there's no expectation anywhere that I've seen in my 14 years that you need to know everything. Even like from day one new grad to like experienced clinician, senior clinician, clinical manager, whatever title people give you in your career. Like you don't need to know anything every level, and it's okay not to know. But the critical thing, like you said, is having that support or having an outlet of going, I don't know, this is where we're going to find out, for whatever setting you guys are going to be in. So that's, yeah, sound advice for any of those people thinking of studying physio. Hats off to you.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah. It's so good because you're always learning. So you're never like reaching, like if there's never an end with physio. And for me, who I like lots of stimulation mentally and everything, like it's good. It's always like it's never final. You're not like, okay, I know everything now.
Yeah. Should we cross back to Marina? Are you there, Marina?
Burnout.
I'm there. Finally made it to a good spot on the tools. I think advice for a young starting physiotherapist or student physiotherapist probably be leave the ego behind. Honestly, it's good to have confidence, but if you show up to your first day of physio school being like, oh, I know this, I know that, I'm better than you, I'm better than that, you're not going to learn, because that closes off your learning section, I guess, in your brain, where it's like, oh yeah, actually we're going to learn new stuff today, or you know what, I kind of have an idea of what's going on, let's build on it. Because obviously if you go in there thinking you're a hot shot, like I kind of did, I won't let you, you're probably going to fall very hard on your butt. And it's a humbling moment. Like you're surrounded by some of the world's best educators, and you think you're walking in there rocking up like, oh yeah, like I know what I'm doing, like I'm just here to pay for my piece of paper at the end of my 2 years. Yeah, you're sadly mistaken, and you're definitely not going to get as much as you would originally out of your program, because it's so good. It's so stimulating. You get to experience you hear different stories. Like Wayne Hang has a story for almost every patient he's had, and it always ends up in either a laughter or some sort of trauma that he ends up laughing about at the end anyway, and it turns into everybody a happy ending type of thing. And like you wouldn't get that type of quality education or have that like that experience if you had too big of an ego to begin with.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I agree. The ego needs to go.
See you later, brother.
And traditionally, physios are very, I wouldn't say ego-driven, but like physio's personality, or even physio students' personality, there's a lot of us out there. Like I saw it going through uni as well. There's like people like to be up high, and they don't want to be not pegged down, right? But like Marina says, you've got to leave it at the door and actually learn. You can't go in there going, oh, I used to be an exercise scientist, or I used to be a personal trainer, or I played professional rugby, I know more than you guys about knee injuries. Like you're there to learn. Like everyone's there for the similar reasons. So leave it at the door and learn.
Yeah, and the ones that do that get very quickly put in their place.
Yeah, they get found out
very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got lucky. I found out before I got found out. So just putting that out there. Still humble, guys, I swear.
That's great. So what do you let's chip away now. So what areas or area of physio are you guys most passionate about or looking forward to when you graduate? Because it's not that far away, right?
No, which is scary.
Look, I went in there because my background is dance, and I've had a lot of injuries. So I do love musculoskeletal, and I do love sports physio, and obviously like everyone else, I went in there like that's what I want to do, and I still am really interested in that, like because I do teach Pilates and I am a PT, so it's just like what I know, but at the same time I did really like cardio respiratory, and I do like that medical side of stuff as well, and I liked vestibular too. So you know what, I'm just excited for placement to see what I actually really like, because the good thing about physio is that there's so many options, so you're not just like stuck to something.
I think I'm kind of much the same, like having the background that I've had. I've always been in and around like musk physios and sports teams and that sort of stuff, and it probably was a little bit before we started this degree that I changed my mind to sort of steer away from that elite athlete population. Having just been one, I know how difficult we are and how unrealistic our expectations are in terms of a rehab process, and what we as athletes think's best is it couldn't be anything further from the truth and what probably actually is best. But yeah, I think every subject we've done so far, I've been able to pull bits and pieces out of that I really enjoy. Cardio respiratory I found really interesting, even though I think the word sputum's burned into my brain forever.
And like I went in there so judgmental as
Yeah.
well. So I got really shown out. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I will eat my words because I actually do like this.
Yeah, so it's probably CR for me, and even chunks of neuro. I really enjoyed like working with all the vestibular conditions and all that sort of stuff. I found it really interesting. And then one of our academic educators, Kyle, obviously being a vestib physio, was really passionate, and I think I got excited with seeing someone else excited, which I thought was originally quite a mundane part of physio. Sort of more you worked with it, even the very little sort of skills that we did on diagnosing and treating different conditions, that almost instant feedback and instant gratification of solving someone's problem that they might have had for months leading up to that was something I thought was really interesting. When you sort of contrast that with all the other areas of physio where you're looking at sort of those long-term treatment programs and rehab goals and having to deal with other sectors of allied health and surgeons and that sort of stuff. Like, it was just a really strange contrast that I didn't expect to see in an area like that. But yeah, something I really, really enjoyed and want to actually investigate a little bit further, as Claudia said, going into placement, hopefully see some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with Claudia and George here. Like, I obviously being a nice hockey trainer back home, I was like, okay, yeah, we're going to do musk. We're going to focus on everything muscle bone because that's the easiest, that's the most comfortable. Psych, I was corrected because when CR started, I was like, I don't want it. Suzanne, go if you're listening, I'm sorry. But then after that, by the end of it, like, I think just doing some percussions on Claudia in the prac room was like, oh, I can kind of see myself doing some perks and vibes for a little bit. And then telling my patient how to breathe properly. It was kind of a little bit exciting because you're like, wow, like, I just got you to cough up half your lung sputum. It's great. Let's go. Let's do it again. Or let's go section it or whatever it may be. And it definitely has piqued a little bit of my interest because I could not tell you if we have some sort of cardio rest with physios back home. Like, we have respiratory therapists, but they're just for respiratory purposes. We don't really have a cardio respiratory physio. So it's kind of interesting because now I'm just checking out what types of physios that we have back in Canada in general, because I don't know if we have neuro ones either. Like, it's just like a physio is just to categorize physio is what my thought process was. But yeah, now I'm very lost.
And like you say, there's so many avenues to physio, right? And not that all avenues can't be rewarding, but the general like cliche is, oh, I'm going to be a physio, I'm going to be a sports physio, I want to be in musk physio, and that's fine because a lot of people do go down that path. But like you guys say, there's so many other avenues to make a difference, and some that you may not have even thought about. Like you said, Geordie, like you never thought of other avenues by sport. So it's really good. And when you go on placement and you see the difference that you can actually make and how much you've actually retained with those quick fire subject turnovers, you'll start to enjoy it even more. You'll start to see, like, put it in practice and see what you've actually been doing for the last year, which is really nice to see as well.
Just see if we can retain it.
What's that?
We'll just see if we can retain it.
Yeah, over December.
Oh, mate, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Your brain's big enough; it'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So let's wrap it up here, right? So let's do a quick fire round. So let's do one word from each of you to describe your physio training so far.
Enlightening.
Enlightening. It's a good word.
Stimulating.
Surprising.
There you go. What about your favorite course or subject so far?
Like
CR.
Cardiovascular, because I've done a lot of musk, but I love musk, but I didn't like the subjects because it was just all practical, whereas I like the variety of CR.
Yeah, probably neuro for me, I think. I know it's
Where'd that come from?
I just think, like,
Feeling okay? George, you feeling okay? You just check his temperature really quickly?
I just think, like, every day we sort of went in there was kind of something new. And it was just that little bit of sort of external feedback I think I needed to sort of just keep me going. Because as we said, after the end of a long semester, I was getting very close to just packing it in and being like, nah, I'm done. I can't retain anymore. But just those little drip feeds of something new and something else to think about, I found really interesting. I'm pretty confident to say it won't be the area of physio I go into, but from like a learning point of view and where we are in this degree, that was just something enough to sort of get me through, and it always had me thinking, which was nice.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. And our final one, a great way to relax after a stressful day.
A glass of Prosecco. Or a bottle.
2 bottles? What?
I think being on the Gold Coast,
it's good.
a surf and a swim on the beach.
Yeah.
Definitely a swim, yeah.
It's pretty hard to go by.
So much easier on your mental health here than in Melbourne.
And with the salt water, you get your sinuses cleared. It's a double whammy.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a Prosecco or Tally Creek.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Both Prosecco with Tally next week, anybody?
It's a great lifestyle, isn't it? I mean, I couldn't think of a better place to study physio or study anything, to be honest. But
I think
cool, guys. Look, I really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks for your time. So thanks for tuning in to Injury Influence Unpacked. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure you share it with your colleagues or hit the follow button on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Since the last episode, we also have launched into YouTube as well. Look out. So keep thriving, and we'll catch you next time.